Remember to hit the subscribe button and turn on post notifications to be updated when a video is uploaded to YouTube. Nigahiga, who is a really popular YouTuber with over 18 million subscribers, was always second best in his family, and his parents always liked his brother as he was better at everything. Then when he went to school, everyone at school bullied him, and you'll see that in this video.
So I was never going to do a draw my life video because, to be honest, I personally don't think my life is nearly as dramatic or interesting as some of the other draw my lives that I've seen. I also have an older brother who I've always felt competitive with my whole life. He was always better than me in everything. He would beat me in challenges, competitions, video games, and of course he was naturally gifted in judo. 5th grade, I moved schools for middle school. 6th grade was specifically a terrible year for me. Not only did I lose all my friends because it was a new school, but because it was a charter school, we all had to take tests to see where we would be placed, I guess, and for some reason I got placed with the older kids. At the time I thought this was a good thing because I thought older kids would think I'm cool because I skipped a grade. However, it was pretty much the opposite. So this is the part of the story that most of you don't know about because I never really addressed it publicly, but I know a lot of you watching this can relate. So I got bullied. A lot. You know, nothing really crazy, just your typical getting pushed down to the ground, being made fun of for no reason. And yes, I remember every single one of them, including the worst of them. Again, not gonna use a real name, but we'll call him Richard. Because as you know, another name for Richard is Dick. See, Dick was such a Richard to me that I'd actually make excuses to my mom why I couldn't go to school, or why I needed to change schools. So I was hating life at the time and wondering why someone so mean could be so popular by picking on me. It even got to the point where I had some darker thoughts at the time that I think most, if not all, teenagers go through at some point in their lives. Or perhaps it was just puberty messing with my head, I don't know. However, I was able to stick it out, and I actually found a way to end the bullying on my own terms. I noticed that the reason Dick was bullying me was to make people laugh, so I figured that if I could make them laugh and become the funny guy, they would stop treating me like I was less than them. Being depressed and feeling sorry for yourself is easy. I challenge you to change that today. Happiness is a choice. Choose to be happy. Choose to better your life because only you can make that decision.
Boogie2988 is a YouTuber with over 3.5 million subscribers. His dad got very sick when he was a child, and he got bullied in school all his life. Then he was abused by his mum, and his life took a turn for the worse, as you can see in this video.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube Boogie? I grew up in the southwestern part of Virginia in a small town called St. Paul. My mother was a teacher, but she was always very sad, and not only was she sad, but she was pretty angry about her life and everything that had happened up till then. My brother went off to college, which left me alone at the age of 9 with my crazy, angry, depressed family, which really kind of sucked. So my dad was almost always at work, and that left me alone with my mother, who was always sad all the time, and sometimes she'd get really angry and she'd scream at me, and that happened almost every day, and sometimes she'd hit me, and that happened every day too. My brother used to tell me that my dad was a pretty laid-back guy and he was kind of fun, but by the time I came around, all Dad liked to do was drink, and he liked to drink Pabst Blue Ribbon, and he drank like 20 or 30 of them a day, and that's pretty much all he did. Pretty much was always sick, and because I didn't get much physical activity, I also got really fat. Eventually, all that drinking and smoking and coal mining caught up to my dad. Something went wrong in his brain. They called it alcoholic seizures, though it pretty much was just like a stroke, and it left him like a stroke victim. He couldn't work anymore, so it was up to me and my mother to take care of him, and all he did was pretty much sit in his recliner and stare at the wall. He couldn't really communicate. He couldn't hear because he was deaf from working in the mines, and he couldn't talk because of his stutter, and that's really, really sad. Then my poor mother, who was already pretty sad and already pretty angry, got even sadder and got even angrier, and the bad stuff she did started happening more often, and the good stuff she did kind of disappeared. And as you can imagine, all this made me really, really sad. I didn't really have any friends at school either, which kind of sucked. The kids at school would call me fat or ugly or gross, and life just kind of went on like that for years. I was always pretty sad, and people were always kind of mean to me, until eventually I was fatter than I'd ever been. But that was just the beginning of health problems for my family, because my dad passed. He died of cancer. And that made my mom really, really sad and really angry. And then we got some more bad news. She fell and broke her leg, and that leg would never heal. So she was unable to work. And if you thought she was crazy before, that pushed her over the edge. And all this bad luck, and all this poor health, and all this misfortune made me sadder and angrier than I had ever been. But the saddest thing to ever happen to me was about to happen. I got a phone call from the hospital, and they told me that my mother was very, very sick. I came to visit her, and while I was there, she died. And this made me sadder than I had ever been, and I really didn't know what to do with myself. So that Christmas, I made plans to kill myself. But I didn't. I didn't because of my friend Adam. I didn't because of YouTube. I didn't because of you. Because I met this redheaded girl who saw my videos, and she was really sad too because she had just buried her best friend, and she had just buried her brother. And we started talking, and it was awesome. We were really interested in each other.
So the next video is of Markiplier, who nearly has 15 million subscribers. Now this video is of where his dad tells him the bad news of what has happened to him, and his voice changes from moderate to depressing, and yeah, it is quite sad video.
I really wanted to do something special for the 1,000 subscriber milestone, or not 1,000 subscriber, 1,000 video milestone. And my father brought me some bad news. He put a piece of paper in front of me and just let me read it without saying anything. And I was a pretty smart kid, so I understood every word that it said, all the techno mumbo jumbo. But the main thing is that in basically big bold letters, it said cancer, and the really bad kind of cancer. So that was a really tough time for me because I kind of lost sight of what I was doing. Everything seemed kind of clear to me before, but right now everything was kind of just getting away from me. And 1 year later, we were all home for summer, and my dad was getting pretty bad with cancer, and he wasn't himself anymore. But one morning, we were all woken up by my stepmom, Dee, screaming, and we went downstairs to see that my dad was dying. And the last words that he said to me were, "I love you so much." And I held my dad's hand as he died.
Sky Williams is a popular League of Legends YouTuber with nearly 1 million subscribers. He's had to overcome a lot of obstacles like losing a friend, bullies, and an unforgiving family, and much more, as you'll see in this video.
When I was 3 years old, my parents got divorced. And not more than a week later of my father leaving, my future stepfather entered the picture. There are many things that I would love to call him, but for now, we'll just call him Bob. So I became a little less social, a little less confrontational. I changed my personality completely, and I think I was just trying to enter junior high with a little bit of caution. And my mom bought me a sweater with one pocket that looked like a boob. And like right away I was picked on from all the other kids, and when I didn't stand my ground because I didn't want to be that confrontational, all the other kids jumped on the bandwagon, and suddenly I became a complete loser. I had an ear to the door when I heard that she declared me absent, and AJ said, "Oh, thank God," and the whole class laughed, and the teacher promptly scolded each and every one of them, and while I appreciated the gesture, I couldn't handle it. I ran home and I didn't show up to school that day. It was around this time of my life that I knew that I was gay. I knew because my father had sat us all down and told us about homosexuality and the Bible. And when he explained that he would forbid us laying in bed with our homosexual partners, Nick and Alex were cool, but I raised my hand and I was like, "Well, how do you feel about camping outside?" And my stepfather had told me that my mother would always choose him over me and that I was doomed to live a pathetic life. And to their face, I was tough, but, between you and me, behind closed doors, I don't think I've ever felt more hurt. It was that same year that my best friend Henry died of bacterial meningitis. He was somebody that I played brawl with a lot, and actually the first person I ever told that I was gay. He knew that I had a crush on him, and he didn't care. In fact, he was the only person that just blindly supported me through my goals and dreams, unconditionally. When he died, a lot of things changed. I stopped playing Smash as much, and I became a very strong person. I fell into a depression, but used League of Legends to get out of it.
The next YouTuber is OMG, it's Firefox, with nearly 750,000 subscribers. This is a very sad story as she starts out with family issues and her mum gets very ill and the parents divorce, and she gets adopted to an abusive family which leads to bullying, but then she finds light at the end of the tunnel with Twitch and YouTube.
Hey everybody, it is Firefox, and this is the long-awaited Draw My Life. My mom was having a really hard time, really stressed, and she actually tried to commit suicide and ended up hospitalized, and my dad was the only one that could take care of me, so I ended up staying with my dad. I actually started to date someone new, and it wouldn't have been that big of a deal if it wasn't his cousin, which was really, really awkward, so it really made me feel uncomfortable. And she tried to take the position of my mom, and she would always boss me around, and she would always tell me I'm worthless, and she would just make me feel like shit all the time. Sure, I ended up calling Children's Aid, and they came and took me away. I was really confused. Even though I called it on myself, I was just really upset and I didn't know what was going to happen. I was alone. I didn't have anyone there for me, and I was so scared. And it didn't seem like it was too big of a deal to them that I was leaving. I even once ended up on a cucumber farm with Mennonites, and I mean, that was an eye-opener. The worst thing that ever happened to me was at a girls' home. And it's basically just a big house full of girls that have juvenile problems, that have family problems, that are in the foster care system, and they throw them all into one home and expect, workers to help them, and it was not that at all. There's fights all the time. I got into so many fist fights. I got my ass kicked, as well as kicked some ass. You can't have super close friends forever, because one night, I was actually trying to repair my relationship with my mom for a little while, and I ended up staying with her for one night. And while I was gone, one of my friends actually was living right in front of me, and he told all my other friends when I left my apartment, and they broke in. I remember seeing it the next day, and walking into my apartment, and just seeing everything broken. If it wasn't stolen, it was broken. All of my stuff was gone, and it was just devastating.
That is the end of the video, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you leave a like, that would be well appreciated. I appreciate each and every one of you, so yeah, thanks so much.